One of the biggest challenges at a trade show is very simple, and that is to try to keep your prospective buyer or existing buyer, on your booth for longer. And that's because I used to find that the longer a buyer used to stay on your booth, the higher the chances that they would, in fact, buy from you, or at the very least, share some incredibly valuable information with you that you could use to benefit yourself or the relationship with that buyer in the future. So in this video, I would like to share with you a few very simple techniques to try to keep buyers on your booth for longer. In the wonderful world of trade shows, time equals opportunity. Picture the scene. You have a buyer at a trade show in the aisles walking past your booth, and they glance at your products and they make an instant decision just to keep walking and move on down the aisle and move into other people's booths. So in that moment where they make that decision, the opportunity is completely gone. It's gone in a flash, in the blink of an eye. So the trick is to try to keep the buyer on your booth for as long as possible. The longer the conversations, the greater the opportunity, the more information that you will be able to garnish from that customer, and the greater the likelihood is that you will be able to work towards a better and stronger relationship with that particular person. And if that is the case, then there is a much higher likelihood that you are likely to sell to that person at some point in the future. But how can you get them to spend more time on your booth? Well, for me, the number one way of doing that was to actually try to get them to sit down during a conversation. That was always the trick for me. Get them to sit down. And if you think about it, when someone is standing up, they are by default saying, this is going to be a quick conversation and I'm going to move on. As soon as they sit down, then the entire dynamic of the conversation is changed. They are saying, yep, I do have time. Let's talk. Let's try and develop our relationship and show me what you've got. That is the feeling which is immediately apparent when somebody sits down. One incredibly simple technique that I used to use was to actually mirror the behavior myself. So I would actually walk towards the chair on my booth and I would lead them towards the chair, pointing like this. And then I would actually go to sit down myself as well and encourage them to do exactly the same. So once they could see that I was looking to sit down, then they would more often than not join me. I also learned pretty quickly, within maybe 1 or 2 years of exhibiting, that a busy booth attracts more visitors. And that was another very motivating factor, which led to my approach to trying to keep people on the booth for longer. So I think the reason for that is that when a buyer walks past a booth and they see that it is very busy, it is a form of social proof. This particular supplier must be doing some good business. He must have some interesting products. There must be something about him that I need to lean into and check myself. And also, when a buyer is walking and maybe they're not particularly familiar with a supplier and they can see that that booth is very busy, it becomes less intimidating. I think sometimes a quiet booth or even an empty booth can be quite intimidating because as soon as the buyer walks on, it's like all the eyes are on that buyer. And maybe they don't feel that they can just relax into the booth and the whole experience of checking and looking for products. It's a bit like going to a supermarket or going to a retail outlet and having a sales assistant following you around, almost like with a microscope. It's uncomfortable. And some buyers, well, myself included, don't really like that. So they may find that it's a lot easier to enter your booth and be more encouraged to enter your booth if that is the whole atmosphere and vibe that's being given off. So how can you actually get them to sit down? They're standing there on your booth and they're having a look at your various products. And the objective is actually to get them to sit down because you want to get them to spend more time on your booth. And I want to share with you a very simple technique. It's incredibly easy, but it was just so effective for me. And that is, I would say to them, can I just have a minute of your time? There is something that I would like to share with you. And then I would gesture towards the seat and sit down. And by doing that, I created a level of interest which the majority of buyers just couldn't turn their backs on. They had to know what I was going to share with them. So inevitably, the vast majority of buyers would say, sure, and sit down with me. And then that would open the door to much deeper conversations. So, admittedly, you do have to have something that you're going to show them. So, do think about that. But it was just such an incredible technique, which was always so effective for me. There is no doubt that trade shows are physically exhausting. I've done my fair share of trade shows, and I'm sure you have as well. I've exhibited and I have been a visitor at countless trade shows around the world. And certainly by later on in the afternoon, you are feeling pretty tired. And certainly if you visit a booth and somebody actually offers you a seat, um, more than likely you are going to accept that offer anyway because you're going to be pretty tired. Admittedly, in the morning, it might be a little bit more challenging to get somebody to sit down because maybe they have got a boost of energy and they have just arrived and they're rearing to go. But certainly after lunch, that time in the afternoon is arguably the golden time to use this particular technique. People are a little bit more tired. They are maybe prepared to spend a little bit more time. They have seen a lot of what they possibly wanted to see in the morning, and they have arguably got more time and are more prepared to sit down. So I would definitely recommend, as soon as we click on past lunchtime, to try this technique, and you will be surprised how effective it is. If you work in export sales, manufacturing, or international business, then I share lessons that I have learned from running my own trading business in Hong Kong, whereby I worked with Chinese factories manufacturing my own brand in Hong Kong, China, and exporting from Hong Kong to North America, Europe, and other major markets around the world. If you would like some more insights like this, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Thank you so much for listening to what I've got to say.